Well, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. I don't even remember the intro now. Thank you.
If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wheeling in Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, maybe making a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and especially hearing about how you can get rerouted in a Toyotas, and this is the podcast for you.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We've been podcasting too long today.
Our brains are fried.
Still got another episode to go.
Yay. Thanks for sticking around, Ken. Just kidding. No, it was a good time. We have a Monday episode for you guys talking about some more Rubicon stuff. So we figured we had one of the smartest guys I've ever met with regards to the Rubicon Trail and his involvement and just want to know and be in the know and have the knowledge of things going on around him. And his passion, one of his passions is Rubicon Trail. So he knows a lot about the trail, a lot of the legal stuff, the political stuff of it. We were like, we have him in the studio. Let's ask him a ton of questions.
Yeah.
And we got some amazing answers, some really cool stories. And so we split it into 2 episodes.
Yeah, we did. We were having such a fun time. Time flew.
Yeah.
And we realized we haven't even gotten to the point at which we had asked Ken to come in and talk.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of fun with him for the Thursday's episode, and here we are rolling around onto the Monday's episode, and we're finally getting to the point of why we invited Ken in.
Yep. Which is rerouting Toyotas. So there was a lot of information about it. Really cool stuff. Ken is definitely like one of the guys with boots on the ground that has been working through the reroute stuff. So what better to hear it from than straight from the horse's mouth?
Absolutely.
Right? So we do have a bunch of giveaways going on as always. So we have the Onyx Off-Road Elite membership going on for once we hit 700 reviews. We have a set of Yokohama tires once we hit 750 reviews. And then we got to figure out something big after that.
Yeah.
I mean, how are we going to we're going to give away Samantha at 1,000 reviews. So
we'll see about that.
So we got those 2 giveaways. Huge shout out to Onyx and Yokohama for working with the podcast and really trying to build relationships more with more of the off-road industry and consumers out there. You guys listen to the podcast. So if you guys need mapping software, if you need some tires, definitely look at what Onyx and Yokohama are both doing in their respective markets there. They have some really good stuff. We talk about them because Jimmy and I use their products and we believe in them. And so we just want to make sure that you guys get that shared. You know about it as well. So
absolutely. We also have a giveaway going on right now for the Snail Squad members of a bunch of gear wrench tools. So if you want to get in and have a chance to win some gear wrench tools, then go over to iRate 4x4 and go sign up over there under the watch, listen, and discuss section. Then Snail Trail 4x4 and all the options will be right there.
Sweet. And then, of course, one of our favorite buddies who we need to get on the podcast again is Brian from 4-Wheel Underground. My suspension's working great. I have my iBox springs. They're not on yet though. So I need to go snow wheeling, I think, before I tear apart the coilovers, but I'm going to do some snow wheeling, put my iBox springs on, give Brian a call and be like, did I do this right? And he'll just be like, no, you're an idiot. And, it'll be fantastic. So
sounds like a great old time.
It sounds like most of my calls with Brian. No, Tyler, you're an idiot.
You're an idiot.
You cannot do that with suspensions. Why not, Brian? Anyways, so yeah, check out 4-Wheel Underground. Lots of really cool options. He's coming out with some really neat products right now. Go check out the Instagram. That's where he's been posting a bunch of them to announce them. So at 4-Wheel Underground on Instagram. Some pretty cool stuff that he's been launching. So check him out over there. Anybody else?
Nope. I think that's it. I say we jump over to the podcast. Campfire discussion.
Campfire discussion today with Ken Hauer from Rubicon Trail Foundation, talking to us with all sorts of really cool information about RS2477, how that kind of works, and how the new reroute on the Rubicon Trail is getting done, why it needs to get done, all sorts of really cool stuff. So really neat. If you haven't been able to check in on the Reroute stuff in the past, when it was first kind of going around social media, definitely listen to this episode. Tell your friends about it because it's some pretty cool stuff that's happening on the Rubicon Trail right now. So
absolutely, it's clarifying a lot of rumors right here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fantastic.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right on back with Mr. Hauer.
If you have a 3rd Gen 4Runner and want 16 inches of wheel travel without cutting into your sheet metal, check out 4 Wheel Underground's brand new cantilever suspension, featuring an integrated anti-sway bar and turn-by-dial disconnect. Don't sacrifice performance and comfort for the sake of wheel travel. Get both with our new cantilever system at 4wheelunderground.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here on our Monday episode, which we like to call our campfire discussion. We have back in the studio for part 2, Mr. Ken Hauer.
Welcome.
From previous royalty, Rubicon Trail Foundation royalty. Not anymore, though. Now you're kind of like one of those peasants again.
I am Homer Simpson slinking backwards into the bushes meme right now.
Yeah.
Don't ask me anymore. Talk to that guy. Congratulations on your new peasantry and no longer president.
Thank you.
Yeah. We talked last Thursday, so just pretty much last episode almost, about kind of your history with Rubicon Trail Foundation. Some pretty cool stuff that you did with Rubicon Trail Foundation, did for the foundation, did for everybody who goes out on wheels on the Rubicon. Not just, in that time and place, but for future.
Yes.
Really cool resolution that you got to work directly with the county on resolving getting rid of these magic wand moments, as you like to call them, of just Joe Schmo or his designee for the weekend while he goes up to the Tahoe.
Little Jimmy Wilson with the wand this weekend.
Right? Yeah, right. Just being able to say, oh, there's an atmospheric river coming in. I don't think it's safe for people to be out recreating. So we're going to shut everything down, and that's now gone.
I don't know why there's this thing about protecting wheelers. We have a cage. Nobody says, hey, those kayak guys that went out in that storm.
So that's another thing I wanted to touch on. Did they close down rivers during the atmospheric river? Did they close down Lover's Leap and rock climbing?
No.
Did they close down? I guess technically Desolation is a permit anyways, but like. Rockhound Trail, did they close that down for?
There was no hiking ban in the forest. I could have gone hiking during the atmospheric river if that was my thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a jam.
Yeah.
Snowmobiling.
Yeah, snowmobiling.
There was no snowmobile ban that weekend, but suddenly put tires on a Jeep out in the wilderness, and suddenly we need protection.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nanny Gate.
Yeah.
Nanny State.
Oh, that always drove me crazy too, and that was one of the things I brought up in the city council or the board of supervisors meeting. I was like, what are you guys doing here? Come on. This is part of why we do what we do, is some of us really enjoy going out in those conditions.
I was a big snow wheeler. Big snow wheeler. I had tracks for my ATV. So
nice.
Scott McCullough was my my tent buddy, as Emily would say, telling us that we spooned in the tent. No.
We've covered that on a previous episode too. Not you, just if you have to spoon for warmth for survival, it's not gay.
No, it's not. You do what you need to do. But so I love snow wheeling. It's a lot of work, but I loved it. It's quiet. There's no insects. There's no mosquitoes. The snow's coming down. It's so peaceful. Really, really, really loved it. And Scott and I did a lot of it for, probably a decade.
Nice. So yeah, you had a huge hand in that. And so thank you for coming on last Thursday and talking about it and get to share everybody what really goes on behind the doors when this stuff happens. So it was really cool to hear about. There's something else going on right now, and has been going on for a while, actually.
A long while.
That people don't realize just how long this has actually been going on. And how it started, and what was the genesis of it all, and how it led to the decision that has been released to the public, and now the implementation is starting, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the reroute, this Rubicon reroute that's happening right now. I think that there hasn't really been a whole lot of information released about it. I know Rubicon Trail Foundation put out a couple of blurbs on social media about it. There was a couple meetings, Zoom meetings. People got to call in and attend if they wanted to. I would venture to bet a majority of the Rubicon Trail consumers, for lack of a better term, the participants, they didn't go to the meeting, didn't really do it. They're putting a lot of faith and trust into the people involved.
It's not exactly like watching a Mr. Beast video, watching the reroute information Zoom call from Rubicon Trail Foundation. So yes. I get it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I like that. So we're having you on today because you've had a very heavy hand in dealing with the reroute as well.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to be an awesome information resource to kind of help everybody be aware of what's going on and what happened and what's happening, so that people know and they're not just sitting around saying, what the fuck just happened? Right?
Exactly. Anybody who's listening to this, obviously, I like to put in the bucket of, they know what happened. They didn't make it happen, but they know what happened.
Yep.
That's all that matters. Being informed.
Yep. We do have a lot of listeners that are not local to NorCal, right? We have a lot of listeners that are not always get to come out to the Rubicon Trail. And so, for those listeners, I would argue that there's a lot of stuff that happens on the Rubicon Trail that ends up getting translated across country to other places.
That is true. I've actually had calls with a nonprofit in the East Coast for the Hatfield McCoy Trail system on how we do things and how how do we handle volunteers and how do we support Friends of the Rubicon and all of that stuff. So
I've had conversations with people in Georgia, in what is that mountain range? The Appalachians, for the Daniel Boone, the DBBB trail, about Adopt a Trail stuff and how does Adopt a Trail work. And that was all kind of started on the Rubicon as well.
Rubicon Trail Foundation helped start Adopt a Trail.
Yeah. So I think that it's really important for people to be aware, off-roaders around the country to be aware of what's going on in the Rubicon, because when shit comes up across the country that is like, hey, Forest Service or county or BLM, whatever, wants to shut down this trail system, most likely the reasons they're using have come up on the Rubicon a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so what happened on the Rubicon to combat those reasons? And how do you then apply that to your trail system? So I think it's really important for people to be aware, because it just seems like California gets very creative for coming up with ways to close trails. And how do we combat those? So,
if you want to participate in the sport, you don't have to be on the board of a foundation. You don't have to be a volunteer, with a shovel. Just being knowledgeable and aware of what's going on is your superpower, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because if you're aware what's going on, occasionally, these organizations are going to come out, no matter where you are, they're going to come out and they're going to do a call to action. They're going to say, hey, something's happening. We got to do something. That's how the Rubicon Trail Foundation and Friends of the Rubicon started. There was basically an oh shit moment.
Yeah, literally.
That started really with the Lahontan Water Board on the Placer County side, where they were going to put a gate up on the Placer County side of the trail.
Wow.
And
that would have been crazy.
And that's when the Shovel Brigade and all the shovels and Friends of the Rubicon going out there in 2001, I believe, is when they started. That's when it all began, where people just simply cared and grabbed a shovel and started doing work that made the Lahontan Water Board happy.
Yep.
There's not a person now that drives out of the Rubicon that goes, oh my God, it's ruined.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything, but it made the water quality, water quality is the number one thing, at least here in California. I don't know about other places. If you're listening in Tennessee, I have no idea, but out here, water quality is king.
Yep.
And the water board, 2009, they did a clean abatement order on the Rubicon Trail, and they have a lot of power. They could have easily have closed it down. Rubicon Trail Foundation was there. We paid to have what's called a pebble count. I think they paid like $5,000 and they did a water quality of Ellis Creek because they knew what was coming up. I wasn't on the board at the time, but they did this pebble count of at Ellis Creek and at Spider, I believe. And I think at Buck, I'm not 100% on that. And then they had to get it to a lab in Cameron Park within a certain period of time. Otherwise the test wasn't valid, which we know time is not exactly on our side when we're leaving the Rubicon.
Yeah.
And so they got a Jeepers Jamboree. I believe it was Jeepers Jamboree provided a helicopter to get the water sample get it from the Buck Island Lake and get it to the dam to get it in a car to haul butt down the hill to Cameron Park to get it to this lab in the time frame for the test that they were doing. And that test was pivotal in the water quality of the water board, realizing that, we had more sedimentation that was above Ellis Creek than we had below. Guess what that means?
Interesting.
Yeah. That means it's working.
That means it's not a catastrophe driving across a creek. But at the time, El Dorado County had the funds, and we just did the history of the trail we just did on Gurley Creek, which the same contractor did Gurley Creek that did the Ellis Creek Bridge. And that money was already available from El Dorado County. El Dorado County knows the economic impact of this trail, and they put in a bridge at Ellis Creek. A lot of people weren't super happy about the bridge, but we made sure that it was wide enough that snow wheeling and there's some epic 4-wheel drive adventure crew, Voss. I don't know if you know who Voss is. They have a YouTube channel and he goes on trips and stuff. He went 2023 was we had a big snow year, 2023. And he had his razors and stuff on the top of it in the video. So go find 4-wheel drive adventure cruise video and you can see rigs, 10 feet over the railing at Ellis Creek. That was intentional so that, that you could go wheeling in the wintertime with it. Why is it so big? Why is it,
Yeah.
There are reasons. It's not, it wasn't random.
Yeah.
So, water quality is king. And so that's the main thing that we really have to, look out for on the trail, which we have done that.
I would argue water quality and water rights are a huge driving factor for the whole country.
Yeah.
I found this really cool TV show recently called How the States Got Their Lines.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. And this guy is going around explaining how different states got their borders and how that decision was made to place the border exactly where it was for that state and how it could have been very different had the argument gone a different way. And almost all of them are based around water rights. You
just mentioned a Rubicon Trail issue.
Oh, yeah?
The boundaries of the counties between Placer County and El Dorado County are not the same. And it was based off of water rights.
Yeah.
So we can, and it actually kind of applies to the whole reroute discussion. So, so we can go into that, but, and because it affects our RS-2477 issue that we have now. So
absolutely.
Actually, we probably should start the discussion
that's
there.
Great. I mean, I didn't think about the difference in the county line issue playing into this whole reroute. So, all right. Okay. Reroute. We're transitioning over to reroute now. It's a great point. Just in general, what is the reroute that's happening? Where is it located on the trail? Let's start there.
Sure. So, when you are leaving the Rubicon Trail, the last 0.7 of a mile.
Okay.
Which direction?
When you're leaving, headed to Tahoe,
up to Tahoe.
So you're almost
I go in that direction quite a bit, Ken.
So then it's the first 0.7 of a mile. This is our second podcast that we've had math involved, and this is really not. We haven't drank nearly enough to be doing math here today.
We've got some whiskey and beer.
All right. It's noon. It's way after noon.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, Oh, she just
We distracted him.
Ken's like,
I don't need any right now. I just lost my train of thought. So it's the last 7/10 of the mile. If you are leaving the Rubicon Trail, after you pass the last potato patch of rocks, that last rock section, that's really the last difficult 4-wheel drive section. From that point on, it's just easy peasy lemon squeezy before you get to Miller Creek Road. And then you make your right as you head out to the parking lot, the staging area.
Yep.
Okay. You reach a point on your right-hand side is Miller Creek, and it's down about 75 feet down on your right-hand side. And the cut-in of the road is on your left-hand side. So during winter wheeling, which I have been there in winter wheeling, and I have been there on snow tracks, and I have gotten to that point and I stopped. It was just a big straight line. There was no road whatsoever. It was gone. A geologist said that area is unstable into the future.
Okay.
It is.
So what does that mean for legal? I mean, responsibility, liability, legal terms stuff when a geologist says something like that.
Well, his point of view isn't the legal aspect of it or the liability aspect of it. His thought process. And, I didn't bring my notes. I should have had names of people, but he's a wonderful guy. I've met him now a few times and talked to him, obviously, because I wanted to know everything about this.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was president at the time. Future Ken doesn't care. No. So yeah, I wanted to know all about it. And what he said is that section, when the glacier came through, which we are all familiar that the bowl, if you're a Rubicon Trail person, the bowl is a glacier feature that is carved out. When you see rocks randomly dropped, that is a rock that was traveling along with the glacier melt and dropped it right there. That's how they get there. The glacier came through in that section and smushed the earth up and created that hillside and created all that stuff. So it's not, I am not a geologist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't know what it's technically called, but the ground is not the same type of ground material that the other sections of the trail have. It's not.
It's not like bedrock. It's not
exactly.
It's not bedrock. It's not naturally there. I mean, it is naturally occurring, but it's not the initial
it's not
tectonic plate earth kind of thing.
It's not earth dirt. It's dirt that was scraped up and pushed into a big pile, like a leaf pile on your lawn.
All right.
It's doesn't have the same structural features.
Okay.
So there's your geology lesson for the day. And that's as far as I'm going to go. But, so he's the one who rang the bell on this. Okay. And so the reroute, back to your original question, where is it? It's taking the last 7/10 between the Rubicon Trail and Miller Creek Road and creating a new 7/10 of a mile. It's exactly the same length to basically hang a left before that section and go around that part and re-enter Miller Creek Road before instead of coming. So the stone would have to be moved, but the distances are all the same as far as the trail goes. So fortunately, the stone that's there that says,
you don't have to re-chisel the stone.
No, I think it says 0 or 12.7 miles or whatever it is, but it's the same. So that's where the reroute is. And that's the reason for it is the geological and I've been there. I've flown drones there and there's like little things of rock and stuff like coming down like almost all the time. Is it going to close in 1 year? No, probably not. Is it going to close in 5 years? Still probably not. But he feels he's a geologist. That's his job. And his job was to raise the warning flag. And this actually came to us quite a while ago from El Dorado County, from the parks manager. Vicky came to us with a grant request for $74,000 or $73,000. Yeah, it was a lot of money. And it was right around COVID. So it was right around 2020. So we're talking 5 years ago. This all came to us. And it wasn't to actually do a reroute. What it was a planning grant, a match on a planning grant to see about rerouting it, what that would, the
What it
consequences
would look like, just do an analysis. of the
exactly.
whole-
Yeah.
okay.
Not to actually do it. And the 73,000 was the match portion of a, what, $250,000 grant. I think
Wow.
it's probably 300,000. I don't know. It was a lot of money. You got a lot of really smart people that have PhDs and stuff doing this type of analysis, not wheelers like us. Like, yeah, send it.
Yeah, we can go through those trees.
I can make it.
Fit right through. Okay.
So we're probably not the best to do analysis of the danger of an area. In fact, we're the worst probably.
Yeah, fair.
So, I know my limitations and that's one of them. So so this came to us and, the board at the time, said absolutely not. I mean, we just said, we don't think it's that big of a problem. We don't, but of course I hadn't talked to a geologist yet. This is just somebody coming to us and saying, hey, a geologist says this is a problem. And we're all like, we haven't seen, I don't have any papers. I don't have any, I like science. Prove it to me. Which he has proven it to me and showed me. And he did, there is a video on our channel that he is there. And the actual geologist that did this analysis.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
He explains this all in great detail of when this all happened and how the dirt got that way and why the dirt is the way it is or whatever. But at that time, we said, no, we are not, we don't think it's that big of an emergency at this time. And, $73,000 just to cough up 73 that's a whole year of fundraising. And then that leaves us no room for paying mid-trail staff to be on the trail and giving away free bottles of BioCleanse for oil spills and spill kits and garbage bags. It's not only is our job to protect the trail, but our job is to make sure as board of directors to make sure that the foundation remains solvent. We're a corporation. We have to remain solvent and we have to be able to, manage all of that. And at the time, COVID, fundraising, gone.
Yep.
We were having our meeting when we talked about this. We were having our meeting in one of the directors' garages because, we couldn't have it anywhere. We couldn't, nobody would let us have a thing anywhere. So this has been around for 5 years. And we were not for it. We were against it and we said no. And so that's kind of the way it was for a while. And the Forest Service, I think we really need to go back to our RS 2477 and our boundary line adjustment that we started off the show with, because this matters here. This is why this is the way it is.
I was going to say, because El Dorado County came to you guys with that. You said Vicky.
Correct. Because El Dorado County does all the grants from the OHMVR. So if you're a listener in another state, in the state of California, we have this thing called the OHMVR fund, and it came from a guy who has a rock named after him on the Rubicon Trail. Chappie Rock is named after Eugene Chappie.
Chappie got the OHMVR. I didn't know that.
He was the
awesome.
He was the force behind the OHMVR fund.
Wow.
So as a Californian, before the OHMVR fund, which I think is like 1971, don't quote me on but it's in that time frame. So when my dad was an outdoorsman and he had Jeeps that, didn't really see pavement, he would flat tow them. They didn't have trailers back then. Nobody used a trailer, but, for your lawnmower, your dirt bikes, you would keep a logbook. So you would go to the gas station and you would fill your gas up and you would complete your logbook for your 5-gallon gas can. That's to mow your lawn or to ride your dirt bike, something that wasn't going to be that the gas tax wouldn't be used for you to drive on a road that was being taxed.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you would submit that to the state and you would get a refund,
tax refund
on your tax that you paid on your gas tax for non-paved activities.
Okay.
Eugene Chappie came along and said, hey, let's build this fund. We know it in California as the green sticker, red sticker fund. And you pay your fee for your tag, which lasts 2 years. And then they take a calculated, I'm sure they got it from all of those logbooks that people were filling out to fill out what the percentage was. And then they take a percentage of that gas tax fund and they put it into the OHMVR fund.
Mhm.
And then there's a commission, which, there's wheelers on there. Roger Salazar is a commissioner. And so there are wheelers on there, and you apply for a grant money from there for that. So that's, that is the genesis of how that kind of started.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, cool. Isn't it like if you buy if you have a 4x4, a 4-wheel drive vehicle in California, the part of the registration for your annual registration, does part of that go into the OHV fund as well?
gosh, you got me on that one. I'm not
Okay.
sure if your registration, any of your fee goes to that, but 100%. If you're
green
some
sticker or
some
red
people
sticker.
have green sticker and licensed rig, right? They have a dual registration. They pay
Yeah.
the green sticker fee because then they can go on in places that are green sticker only, which like buggies and stuff, but
Yeah.
usually a hybrid rig that
Yeah.
can do both. So yeah, that's where the money comes from for this
Okay.
sort of thing. And so that's where that planning grant money was originally going to come from.
Okay.
So
Okay. So El Dorado County was figured out that this geologist raised some alarms that this may happen in the maybe not so near future, but eventually it's going to happen.
that's
It's
yeah, I think that's part of the story, but I really think we should go back and talk about why Placer County and why the forest is involved. Cause this would not be the case if we were in El Dorado County. It would be a different story.
Because I was going to say, because that part of the section of the trail is not in El Dorado County, correct?
That is correct. So when the Rubicon Trail was originally, and in our last week's podcast, we talked about the Sweeneys were integral. Their family, I think it's on his mother's side, was the board of supervisor, but obviously not important. In 1887, declared that the county declared the Rubicon Trail a road in their county. When they did that, the Rubicon Trail started at, in Georgetown, and it was dirt. If you go back just even to the 80s, it was dirt, just out of town, through Quintet and all that. That was all dirt. You drove by Uncle Tom's cabin in the dirt. That road is still there. That's now the turn that you turn off to. But when they paved it, they went around Uncle Tom's cabin.
Okay.
So, and that was part of the trail. That's why the distances that people talk about are always so varied, because when did it actually start changes, depending on what year you're talking about. And the trail went through Airport Flat. That was the original trail. You drove past the Breedlove Bridge. You drove past Gurley Creek.
Yeah.
You teed into what's now the Wentworth Springs exit entrance. And you went through there past the Wentworth Springs campground. The hotel was there, which we have a video about the hotel that was there up until the 80s.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it wasn't operational, but the building was still there. And so all the way to Tahoma, that was all El Dorado County. If you go look at any map prior to the 1920s, El Dorado County line to Placer County is the Rubicon Trail all the way to the lake.
Oh, wow.
So that's key.
Yeah.
That's key. That means that the road was claimed as a public road. So,
especially if you have a county line, that's a big deal to have a county line built around something. If you have a county line that's built around the trail, that means that the trail was a very significant part of day-to-day life, part of logistics for government entities, whatever it is. It's a big deal. It's not just some whimsical thing that, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't want to say Strawberry Pass, but like Strawberry Pass there's no government significance really for Strawberry Pass.
Yeah.
The Rubicon Trail has a massive significance to the government.
It was one of the 3 original routes to cross the Sierra Nevada mountains. Yeah. Which, crossing the Sierra Mountains, as the Donner Party found out, that's serious business.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's 4-wheel drive podcast just leaned into cannibalism.
Yeah. We've talked about the Donner Party before.
A few times. Yeah.
So what happened? Let's go back to that RS2. We're not going to go into like super duper deep, but we will like skim the top of it. So
Okay.
our revised statute 2477 is what it's called. And you can go look it up on Wikipedia, which is where I am right now. Normal laws these days, are 100 pages or a thick giant book. I'm going to read you the RS2477 law. It's literally a sentence. You ready?
Oh, wow.
It says the right of way for the construction of highways across public lands not otherwise reserved for public purposes is hereby granted.
Oh,
That's it.
okay.
Wow.
So what that meant is that any route that was not a county road, somebody was trying to build a freeway or, whatever they were trying to do back in wagon trails, which were going back that far, that this was, this was a public road that was claimed by the county. And that's what El Dorado County did in 1887. So revised statute was from 1866. And in 1887 is when the Sweeney family, as part of the Board of Supervisors, did their resolution claiming the road.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a dirt road.
Yeah.
This was, hey, this is our road to cross the Sierra Nevada mountains, whether your wagon or whatever, it's ours. We control it.
Yeah, RS2477 is interesting because it was at a time when we didn't have paved roads everywhere. I mean, the automobile wasn't around yet.
Negative.
Right? So we didn't have paved roads. So people were just kind of going wherever they could fit their feet, kind of, and whenever they could fit a wagon, wherever they could fit their mule train, whatever it was. And so there are all these routes everywhere. And the federal government was like, this is too much. We don't even know what we have, as they're trying to look at country infrastructure. And so they said, all right, we're going to put it on all the states, all the counties, et cetera,
and the
public to figure out what routes are there and what we want to move forward with as part of country infrastructure. And so they said, any route that is currently here right now is granted as an official route for transportation.
Correct.
And it's up to the counties to say whether they want that route included in this or not moving forward.
Because these
catalog it.
They catalog and inventory it.
Yeah. And routes like the obviously the infamous Donner Party route across, Emigrant Gap and Donner through Donner Lake, which is now Interstate 80. That route, became obviously Highway 40 and then eventually became Interstate 80 was, that was one route. There was one in Sonora. Sonora Pass.
Yep.
That was one.
Yep.
And this little trail from Georgetown over to Lake Tahoe was
Lake Bigler. Lake Tahoe, yes.
Lake Bigler.
Yeah.
Boy, you guys are diving in. So how this matters is that when if you listen to last week's episode, we talked about in 2012 that El Dorado County, for the third time, kind of reclaimed their route and actually got an easement because this little thing in 1917 or somewhere around 1910, whatever, I don't remember the exact date, but a little thing called the U.S. Forest Service was created.
Okay.
And the U.S. Forest Service, a lot of people don't realize this. The U.S. Forest Service was created to manage lumber contracts on federal land, and the BLM was created to manage mining contracts on federal land.
Okay.
They were not created to count pine cones or clean out bathrooms at the campsite that you go to with your RV. That's not what they were created for. That was an evolution of their
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's how they originally started. And, now suddenly this Rubicon Trail route, it's not a road. It's not a county road. It's been claimed as an RS2477 road with El Dorado County from, obviously the start of it on the Georgetown side all the way through to Lake Tahoe. But and you can find this. And if somebody's really nerdy and wants to email me and ask me for it, there is a 1898 U.S. Geological Survey folio. I think it's called Folio 1898 or something. It's got some name. And I found this. I did a lot of research, looking for old maps, trying to find out when this all happened. And you can see the trail on this map They talk about it in there as one of the 3 routes to cross the Sierra Nevadas in 1898. And El Dorado County is the fee holder of that land all the way through. Then 20 years later, 10, 15 years later, the Forest Service comes along and now they own the land. But El Dorado County still claim that this road is ours.
Yeah.
Now, this act was revoked, I think, in the 70s. It says right here, and I have to get my glasses on. So if you're watching on video, it was repealed. It was 1976.
Okay.
But
So 50 some odd years, 50, 60 years later, it was repealed.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no, from 1866, 66, 90 years later.
Okay.
110 years later.
Yeah.
See,
Okay.
math. God, man, this is not a good. This has not been a good podcast for math. Good thing that's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
Right.
So, 110 years that act was in play from 1866 to 1976.
Okay.
And they repealed it, but what they did was they said, well, if any of those RS-2477 routes, which are typically in like Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, California, a lot of the West Coast, where travel was, to get from San Francisco, where, in Sierra Nevadas where gold was discovered, right? All those routes
Oregon
were
Trail days.
it was important back then. And so those routes, even though the act was repealed, so now you couldn't just go willy-nilly go make a new road and say, hey, this is my road. You can't do that anymore. But you could keep the ones that you had. And El Dorado County had done that in 1887. And so that if that was the case today, this would have been easy peasy lemon squeezy, because El Dorado County has an easement with the Forest Service, but it ends at the Placer County line, which is not in the same place. So,
but don't they own the trail? Isn't it El Dorado County's trail
no,
or road in this?
no. So when that change happened in the 1920s, now it was Placer County's responsibility, not El Dorado County's responsibility. So the line moved. It's a jiggity. It was
county line moved at some point
in the 20s.
in the 20s.
Because I have a map from the 1930s that shows the current stage. And we know this had to do with like Hellhole Reservoir and water with their, I haven't seen any document, but that's talking to a lot of old timers. They knew but that was water rights was the reason that line was changed way, a little over 100 years ago, 105 years ago, something like that. So, so now the U.S. Forest Service, i.e. Tahoe National Forest, is responsible for the Rubicon Trail from the county line at Placer County until you get to Tahoma.
Okay.
They're responsible for that parking lot that's there, the staging area that people park their stuff at. Now, El Dorado County has done a lot of stuff to participate in that, filling out grants and, helping with the parking lot being paved, and it's actually going to be expanded. That's a side note. It's going to be doubled in size.
Wow.
But Tahoe National Forest is responsible for that road because Placer County has not asserted their RS-2477 rights like El Dorado County did.
Interesting.
So which,
So
no, go ahead. Go.
Yeah. Is that intentional? Like, does Placer County just say, fuck it, we don't want it? Or what's keeping them?
Or could they not because they never originally did it?
They never originally did it. And realistically, what should have happened, it should have been fixed a few times. It's had a couple moments in time to fix itself. It could have been fixed in 1920 or whatever, that somewhere in the 20s when that line was moved. It could have been fixed then, and Placer County said, hey, that was El Dorado County's RS-2477 road. We're claiming it as our RS-2477 road.
Yeah.
Okay. No big deal. It could have happened in 1989 when El Dorado County reaffirmed their RS-2477 rights, and Placer County did not participate. Now, Ted Gaines, who is a advocate, wheeler, outdoors guy in the government. Ted, call me. Ted and the Placer County Board, they did do a resolution about the Rubicon Trail. I have it.
Oh.
But in the words of our lawyer, Jesse, who is an expert in this field, said, Ken, it's got a lot of the good ingredients, but it doesn't have all the ingredients. He goes, I really would like, he goes, it's not all there. It needs more. And so they did it somewhere in, I believe in the early 90s they did it, or I don't remember exactly, but it was after the El Dorado County one. And they didn't do it in the same way that El Dorado County did, unfortunately.
Okay.
So even though they could claim their RS-2477 rights to it, they have not. Now,
interesting.
If you live in Placer County and you know Cindy Gustafson, call your representative, Cindy Gustafson. The trail is in her district.
Yep.
We have talked to Cindy Gustafson about it.
I've talked to Cindy about it. So
yep. We have in our rock call, we've talked about it there too. Our rig meeting, whatever.
Meetings, yeah.
Yep. Thank you for restarting that, by the way. So it's been discussed with them. It's just clearly not on their list. They don't have an attorney in-house that knows anything about this. I would venture to say, and I'm not tooting my own horn, I'm just the realities of it. I'm sure I know more about it than the lawyer for Placer County that knows about
Probably.
it. It's just not an area that people, go around and study in their spare time.
yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're part of
unless you're really dumb like me and you've made some life choices that were
questionable.
Yes, questionable indeed.
flat fenders and all.
Yeah. So so that's why this is coming from the Tahoe National Forest and not from El Dorado County or
Placer County.
Yeah, or Placer County for that matter, because and let's be realistic. If Placer County suddenly said, "Hey, we do want to assume our RS-2477 rights," they don't have an easement like El Dorado County does.
Yeah, I would think that the argument could be made that when the county line moved and they didn't assert their rights, and then when El Dorado County reasserted their rights and Placer did not, that they had the argument could be made they had plenty of opportunity to, and they never did it, and therefore they lost it.
We should have done it when we did the 2012 easement. They should have involved Placer County and said, "Hey, let's just do the easement all the way through." That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
I was there. Didn't even cross my mind. It felt so good at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing. It still is good. It turned out to be the right decision, but Placer County basically being left behind has put Tahoe National Forest in the position that they are responsible for it. They own the land. Yep. And now, if a question that often comes up is, well, if Placer County asserts their RS-2477 rights, this thing isn't going to happen. Once again, that's not true.
Not true. Nope.
It's not true.
Nope.
Tahoe National Forest owns the dirt that trail is on. What it would mean if Placer County asserted their rights, and why we want them to assert their rights, is not because they're going to be suddenly responsible, like El Dorado County is because of the easement, because now that they own the dirt. The reason is that Placer County would now be responsible for whether the trail is open or closed, or there's no decision of it, this decision of what happens in terms of whether it's opened or closed. If Tahoe National Forest, I don't care what anybody else says out there. If Tahoe National Forest said, we want the Rubicon Trail on our side of the trail to be open June through September, there is not a bloody thing that we can do about it.
Nope. It's all federal. There's nothing anybody local can do about it.
So all these arguments that are floating out there out in the internet land over, it's going to disrupt the RS-2477 rights. There's no RS-2477 rights now. Placer County does not control whether that trail is open or closed. Tahoe National Forest does.
Now we have an awesome manager right now.
They want it open.
Joe is amazing. He's an amazing dude. He's a big time advocate for off-roaders, but Joe's getting a little old. And I think we mentioned in the last podcast, what happens when that power position switches, or as we're seeing with a lot of issues with BLM land right now, what if the decision comes above Joe and he's forced to do something he doesn't want to do?
Correct. You never know who's going to hold that wand, man. And this Placer County, if you're listening to me, this is a $10 million based off adjusted for inflation. This is a $10 million economic benefit to the county of Placer County. And by asserting your RS 2477 rights, by literally passing a resolution and getting 3 of your board of supervisors to pass it, you now control over whether that your $10 million economic benefit to your county is open or closed.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all it means.
It's huge. Yeah.
And it's huge. So that's why we are where we are. We got the geologist that said something's going to happen here. We have the El Dorado County, who's obviously in their best interest, is trying to get grants to get this, this planning grant done, and came to us. We declined for many reasons, not just one. And Tahoe National Forest was able to do the study on their own within their own budget.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Exactly.
And so they did that study. They went and they went through the NEPA process.
Wow.
That's
a very daunting process.
It was open to public comment. People had lots. RTF is not involved at this point. We are not even in the picture at this point. So anybody out there blaming RTF, I know it can be a popular thing for some of the crowd out there, but we were not in this picture whatsoever. We had nothing against them. We had nothing against the rerouting the trail itself. We just didn't feel that spending $70,000 of public funds donated to us by our supporters was the wisest thing to do with our money at that particular time.
Yep.
With COVID and fundraising and all that stuff, we were holding on to every penny that we had because nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
And so, they did that. They did the NEPA process. We didn't even comment on it. Anybody had a chance to comment on it. It was out there. We didn't support it or, tell them no, nothing. We were neutral on it. How's that? But then, Tahoe National Forest came to us and said, hey, we've done the planning grant. We have determined that we need to reroute this for public safety because this section of the trail is going to fail at some point in the future. The people that are there now believe in the Rubicon Trail. They believe in what it means and what it stands for. They know it's a big recreational opportunity for people to use other recreational things like a sugar pine and camping in and around the Tahoe area that come to visit. There's a lot of it brings a lot of people to the area and puts Tahoe National Forest itself in a positive light. It's well taken care of. Is it perfect? No, but it's well taken care of. And so they came to us and they said, we got our NEPA passed. It's already, it's done. We can do the reroute. We build dirt roads all the time, but we know you guys don't want a dirt road.
Yeah. Yep. Joe's very aware that we do not want just a dirt road.
It is only the last 0.7 of a mile. I know some people get past Potato Patch and go, whoo, I'm done. Right now it's, hey, I can put it in 4 high and, cruise on out of here. Yeah. But there are people, that's why it's for everybody. It's something for everybody. And so they said, we can build a dirt road. We do it all the time. It's not a big deal. No problem. But we don't want to build a dirt road for you. We want something that you will enjoy and care for. And we want you to be the ones that decide who is going to do the work and what that work would look like. Well, like, what would you like to see in a route?
That's pretty cool. For a U.S. Forest Service to come to a community essentially and say that.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
You don't get that. That doesn't
No.
happen.
No.
Yeah.
And it shows the trust that a
Yes.
government agency has for an organization.
The federal government came to us and said, we trust you with building this road having this road built for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Is it being built or designed?
So, by us,
Yeah.
it's being built and designed by a wheeler who is also a excavation company.
Right. Okay. So it's both.
So
in an essence.
Let's talk. So,
Well, I just wanted the clarification between.
Yeah, they're
coming to us to more than design the route. They're not going to do the work either. Where the community is going to be designing it and building it.
Correct.
Okay.
So think about it from, if you're out there listening in Snail Trail podcast land, right? You know, we are the foundation that is the stewards to keep the Rubicon Trail open. This is a problem. A geologist, you know, in great detail explained why it's a future problem, right? I don't want the Rubicon Trail to end at Rubicon Springs and people turn around and have to go back because there's no trail anymore past to go out to Tahoma.
Yep.
Okay. I don't want to do that.
Because that's what would have happened. And there's a bunch of people that are like, oh no, it's fine. It's it may fail at some point, but we'll just deal with it when it fails. It's like, why? What do you guys? Why even go down that route?
If I was running an event and I was an event runner on the Rubicon Trail, I certainly wouldn't want it to be collapse either while my event was driving down it and somebody tumbled 75 feet down to the Miller Creek Trail and sued them, or it falls before my event, like during the snow runoff, during the melt, and part of it slides off, and now my event's canceled.
Yeah.
Or modified because now I have to turn around and go back.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
Make it to Cadillac, and then you're free to do whatever you want.
Turn around and go back. Got enough gas?
Yeah.
So now we have a choice. We can listen to Tahoe National Forest, listen to what their ask is, and participate in something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
This isn't a maybe. This is going to happen. So now the question is do we want to be part of it or do we want to watch it? Now we're going full circle to our, do we want to, make shit happen? Do we want to watch shit happen? Or do we wonder what the hell just happened? And we decided, our whole board obviously made a decision that the ask so what is the ask of the Rubicon Trail Foundation? That's probably another misconception. So what is the ask for us? The ask is that when these things are done, you have a contractor that goes out and performs the work. Okay. And, grants, the money doesn't come in at the same time a grant that the work is done.
Yeah.
Right. You do the work, you, submit the end details of that work for the grant. You are paid back on the grant. Most of the grants have a match. The match is made by an entity like us or a fundraiser or a county or whatever, a state. If it's a federal grant, they will make that match. And so, shoot, I lost my train of thought.
So the ask of RTF.
Yes. So the ask of RTF is because there's a difference in time between when the work would actually be done and when the money would actually be paid out from the grant. RTF is essentially the bank.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what we did, they said, because it's not out to an open bid process. We are paying for this to be done, and then we are getting paid back in a grant minus our match.
Yeah.
So it made all the sense in the world, and somebody can debate me, call me on the phone and cell phone, debate me with it. But I'm sorry, it makes all the sense in the world that we hired a wheeler to make a wheeling road to bypass a part of the trail that is eventually someday going to fall. and die and not be passable.
Yeah.
So we chose Mike Barr from Barr Excavation as awesome guy. Loves the Rubicon Trail from his family, his kids.
We've met him a few times. Yep.
So
didn't he move one of the cabin or something down to from what was that story? He moved a building at the spillway or something.
That wasn't Mike.
Oh, that wasn't Mike.
Orange Jeep.
That was a Rock Award winner.
He had a towing company.
Yes. Oh, that's what. Sorry. Okay.
Dana Holland.
Dana Holland. Thank you.
Dana Holland, and he won a Rock Award. He's the one who moved the kiosk to its current location.
Yeah.
So so we got Mike Barr. We went out. Obviously, we had guidelines. That's another myth that's out there that nobody seems to know where this route is.
Oh.
Well, I sure as heck got it. I
got it. It was very easy to attain that information too.
I have a couple of videos that show the route. The route exists. I don't know where that myth has come from, but there is a route. It was walked on foot with Tahoe National Forest with the excavation company that's going to do the actual work. All of the features that have to be accounted for in terms of, proper ways to do forest road management, right?
Okay.
With culverts and drainage and all that stuff, that part was all dealt, with, that, but, it's going to be a road, a 4-wheel drive road out. I think, Mike plans on putting in some, making some additional obstacle features with a bypass so that if somebody has had enough of wheeling, they can go around it, but it's not just going to be a dirt road. He'll do all that, he'll do all that work. People can, I'm sure he will have volunteers that he'll need to come out and help. So if somebody's interested in you can watch it happen, make it happen, or wonder what happened. It's up to you. So I'm sure there's going to be opportunities when that call out goes out, but essentially all the foundation is doing is floating the money from Mike, the money that Mike's going to need to actually do the work. He's got to put food on his family's table.
He's got to pay his employees.
We will pay Mike, all of his segments, like most construction, start, reach milestones or whatever. And then at the end, we will have put out about $250,000. So, when I joined the foundation, it was just after COVID. We had $104,000 in the bank, and now we have the financial ability that we've been socking away for. And it's a rainy day. And the rainy day has arrived that we need $250,000.
Yeah.
And so, we have that. We're ready to it. Now we will get reimbursed for that. So full transparency, we're going to get money back. We're not going to get all of it. I think we don't know exactly how much the final bill will be, and we don't know what our final match will be, but it'll probably be around $50,000 out of pocket.
Yeah.
And we'll get about $200,000 of it back when the grant pays the money back.
Yeah.
So that's essentially it. I mean,
how many people in the wheeling community have $250,000 in cash sitting ready to go to take on a project like this and make sure that the project happens in a way that's going to be good for the off-roading community?
Kudos to Dell Albright for starting this foundation in 2004. Hi, Dell. He knows I love him like a brother. That thankfully he had the foresight to do this. It started off small. I mean, their first project that the RTF funded was the ham radio hut.
At Spider.
That's the project that the first project that we first fully funded. That was Dennis Mayer, who is going to receive a posthumous Rock Award at Black Tie and Boots.
Oh, cool.
He was the driving force behind having ham radio on the trail that RTF pays for.
Nice.
We pay for all of the repeater hardware and all of that stuff. People don't, realize that, you go on there and do your call sign. It's because we paid for that.
Yeah.
We think it's important for the trail to have good communication, especially in an emergency or when somebody's, you you've been there on the trail when Glenn's been out there and somebody's calling because somebody's family member died and they're trying to get a hold of, somebody who's having a nice weekend.
Yep.
And we're trying to find them so that they
Find
can
the
get
person,
home, that they can get home to their family. Is it like a life or death emergency for them? No, but they're going to be very grateful that it happened. And so, yeah, that ham hut, shack, it's like a stone shack at the top of on a hill at Spider was our first $5,000 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do remember as Rubicon Trail Patrol, I actually went, this is way before I was on the board. I went to a meeting. It was at, it was in the garage at one of the members of Pirates of the Rubicon. It was Mike was his name. I don't remember his last name. Somebody out there in radio land, podcast land probably knows, but me and the other guy that did Scott Emmons and I did Trail Patrol after Rich Klein stepped aside, and we went there to ask for radios when we were out there, and they didn't give us the money.
So, a couple of handouts.
Yeah. So, a small little amount of money was like a big deal. We're talking like 2007, I believe. So the foundation was only 3 years old, and they'd only had 2 cantinas at that point.
Yeah.
In the first cantina, they raised $5,000. So they were rolling.
Yeah.
They're making it rain. So, but how many are out there that have the financial ability to just like, okay, yeah, we'll pay, we'll float $250,000, no problem, so that we can keep our trail open.
Yeah.
That's what it means to us.
Yeah. So
legally, one of the other questions that we get out there is, well, this is going to ruin RS-2477. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. You are a scholar of the trail. You know it very well. You know more than the average bear. You're a yogi.
Okay.
All right.
I like where we're heading.
Okay. When you reach, where the S turn is. Okay.
The one as you're then approaching Soup Bowl.
Yeah. As you're coming up to Noby's Rock, and
right
you're
after Ellis.
After Ellis,
Okay,
you come up to the S turn. Where did the trail go before that?
I went off to the left, right?
No. When I tell you, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's right.
Before the S turn?
It went straight. It went right straight
in that canyon up that V where all the trees are falling.
Yeah. They fell all the trees to block it off. Okay. The other alternate, we're not going to call it an argument, but an alternate opinion is that we're going to ruin RS-2477 rights. And there's 3 fallacies to that statement. 1, the S turn is a reroute.
Yeah.
We rerouted the trail on the actual RS-477 claimed portion of El Dorado County. We make the left-hand turn, we make the right-hand turn, and we run along the high side there. Actually, there was a fatality there. There's a cross there where the gentleman rolled his rig at 2 a.m. and passed away from not wearing a seatbelt, unfortunately. But the road went straight. It has been abandoned. Is it abandoned?
No.
Yeah,
well,
Jimmy.
which one?
The old one.
The original one is abandoned.
It is 100% abandoned. You cannot go through it. Every tree.
You were saying the current one.
No, every tree in Manager Mole was dropped into that.
It's an easement. We need to keep driving on it.
Yeah, it was rerouted.
Yeah.
RS-2477 routes are rerouted for safety reasons, for environmental reasons all the time. It's not new. There's case law for it. So that's reason number 2. There's case law for it that says we have a lawyer on staff that this is what he does.
Yeah.
Of course, we would never. We dove into this extremely deeply from a legal aspect of it, and learned a lot about it before we moved forward. They came to us, asked us for it. I mean, and we decided whether we're going to be part of it. But one of our questions was, will it ruin any RS2 future? That's point number 3, RS-2477 rights. And the third part is, it doesn't have any RS-2477 rights right now. Placer County has not asserted them.
That's what I was going to say.
It simply doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's a myth at this point.
Yeah.
Could it be a reality? It could be a reality. So you Placer County voters, Cindy Gustafson, that's your pony. That's her district. That's what we need to have happen. And it's the trail has already been rerouted on RS-2477 at the S turn.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't affect anything.
Yeah.
Case law supports it.
Mm-hmm.
When Placer County does assert their rights, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of speculation and, lawyers that went to Holiday Inn Express like myself and
there was a great meeting that's recorded.
Two great meetings, actually.
Two that was recorded. Do you guys have that up somewhere? The recording, by the way?
Yeah. If you go to the Rubicon Trail Foundation YouTube channel, there are two meetings. There is one that is a meeting that was like to talk about the reroute. I think it's called a president's message or something like that, where I went and talked all about it. That's there. There's 3 videos. There's my video that explains it. Then we had an open call where anybody could ask questions. I paid extra with Zoom so that we could have 500. I didn't know who was going to come.
Yeah.
So I could have 500 callers come in. I did that. But there was a lot of people, but it wasn't 500. And they asked a lot of questions. I had the geologist that was there. He was there to answer any questions. I had the Tahoe National Forest with Teeny, the recreational, I think she's the recreational manager. I'm not 100% sure on her title. Joe was on the call from, the actual boots on the ground. We had Jesse Barton, our lawyer, was there. We had all of the people that were, not, you just didn't have to listen to me tell the story. Even though I can regurgitate it perfectly fine. You had the people that decided that it was a problem, decided to fix the problem, the people that paid for the problem to be solved. The excavator, Mike Barr, was on the call, who actually is going to actually do the work and make some, and the lawyer that could answer any of the legal questions. They're all there on that call, and you can watch that video. And then Jesse did a subsequent video to explain RS-2477 to anybody that was interested in. That's there. That one's, Mr. Beast, Jesse. It's a toss up.
I thought that was fascinating. It's some great information about the history of RS-2477, how it's been applied and fought, and how precedents and case law is working with RS-2477 kind of countrywide. And how it applies to that part of the trail, even though it technically doesn't apply, like you said, because there is no RS-247 rights on it. But that's it seems like from the limited work that I've had with trying to see everybody's point of view and get everybody to see each other's point of view, it seems like a lot of the people are having issues with losing RS-2477. And I'm like, but there's just nothing, like you said, there's nothing there. We don't have any RS-2477. There's nothing to lose. So why are you guys stuck on this?
Two issues. Those two issues come right back. There's nothing to lose. And we've already rerouted on the El Dorado side and abandoned the route. That's the other argument, is like, oh, the route's going to be abandoned. They're going to abandon it. And that's going to ruin, the thing. No, it's not. It's just not. It's already been done. There's good precedence for it. That does not happen. Exactly. It's actually precedence that it has happened, and nobody's coming screaming that, that this is no longer an RS-2477 road or anything like that. It's just not true. I mean, I really do. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate anybody that questions it or asked those hard questions and said, hey, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about this. I am. Maybe you're going to ask a question that I hadn't thought of, or nobody else had thought of. That's why we had the open call, so that people could, there were some questions about, well, maybe we should just do some work there. Well, we did get some, I mean, we're not talking about like actual estimates, but we had people in the field ask us like what would have to be done, with video pictures, and show them what it was, what the ground was like, and asked, what would it take to to basically fix the problem where it is instead of rerouting it? What would it take?
I don't think there almost is a way to fix it, because it's not in bedrock.
They said it would cost $1 million just to get there, just to get everything approved to do it. And for the equipment that would be required, and to get it there on site, not even including the cost of doing it. You said you're talking $1 million, and we're going to do everything for $250,000.
Yeah.
It's a slam dunk what the cost difference between the two, fixing versus rerouting, the cost difference.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any RS-2477 to worry about, you've already had RS-247 route changed. The law, according to a lawyer, said that it's a non-issue. $250,000 or $1 million.
Yeah, that's
really
that's even
that's a starting point was $1 million.
Yeah,
right.
And it was okay. So there's this having this conversation and going farther and trying to like get a bid out or something like that to even it was a waste of energy.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. Any other stuff about the reroute that we can look forward to? Like, what's the timeline of the reroute happening and all this?
Sure. So the reroute is going it's going to be done in the late summer of 2026.
Okay.
We thought we might be able to do it at the end of the summer of 2025, but that's not the case.
Okay.
So it's going to be at the end of the summer. So in the, like at the end of August, like mostly after the wheel, and it's not going to affect the trail. I mean, there'll be equipment nearby and there'll be work being done. And
so the original route that goes right next to Miller Creek is still going to be open for people to use during that time.
Yep. And you'll be able to drive by and wonder what's going on here. If you'd never heard this podcast or watched any of my videos, you would wonder, oh man, they're putting in a Starbucks.
Yeah.
A new gas station.
Yeah, exactly.
For all those people.
No, a Tesla charging station. Yeah. We got a fist bump on that. Yeah.
Sure.
No, that's not what it's all about.
So the trail's not going to be closed at any point.
No, not going to be closed at any point. There's a nice, it's
no
obviously
rocks flying overhead.
No helicopters required or nothing like that. And it's just going to be a very similar-ish with maybe even some harder wheeling optional opportunities when you're leaving. So if you haven't gotten enough Rubicon, and I'm using air quotes if you're on the podcast, I'm making air quotes.
Yeah.
You can still do it if you don't want to and you just want to keep heading out. You can go around it. I think that's the plan that I've heard from Mike. And once again, it's being designed by a wheeler.
Yeah.
It's being built by a wheeler. We're just the bank.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't.
Yeah, when I first heard about the reroute, I was like, no, that sucks. We're going to lose some trail. And then I heard it's after, what it's called, Potato Patch.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, there's nothing after that. It's just a dirt road. I'm like, who cares? And then I was like, oh, they're going to put more obstacles in? I'm in. Let's do a reroute.
That was it. When I first heard about this, that's funny you said that. I literally pulled out a map and I was like, how far is it from the potato patch to the thing? I don't want to go around the potato patch. That's like, I love that spot.
That's a fun obstacle.
And it changes like all the time.
Yeah.
1 minute it's straight, next minute it's to the right. Then I love it. And I was like terrified that it was going to get rerouted before that, but that's not the case. It's literally occasional rock here or there and occasional mud puddle during the melt.
It really comes down to, in essence, we're not losing any wheeling.
No.
For the most part. The trail is exactly the same length.
Exactly the same length.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like we're rerouting it, but it's exactly the same distance wise. And in a way, we're going to gain more wheeling.
It's actually because it kind of zigzags around and kind of does some
go
stuff.
Up the hill.
Yeah. And the other one kind of goes around the hill. So that's why it worked out exactly 0.7 of a mile. Exactly the same.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the rock will still have the right mileage on the rock from 2010 that we put there.
Yeah. Just have to move it a little bit.
It's going to have to be moved. Yeah. I think there'll be some equipment there that'll be able to take care of it though.
Probably.
I don't think we're going to have any volunteers out there with sticks and ladders trying to.
Some pry bars to move them.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Edwin rolled his Land Cruiser 4Runner. What was he towing it with at the time?
Oh yeah, they rolled the rock.
The whole it wasn't that rock,
but it was the trailer. It was the one for the springs.
Yeah, he was coming down a hill and the trailer had so much weight in it, it didn't stop the rig, and it like tipped everything on the whole rig.
Pulled his whole rig over.
Yeah, whole rig and trailer and rock and all on the side. And everybody's like, "Oh shit, the rock!"
and it was going down Indian Trail.
That's where it was.
It was going down Indian Trail, and I didn't know what was going on that weekend. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was coming into the RTF property, and I'm coming down, on a Friday night, it's dark, and about 11 o'clock at 10 o'clock at night or whatever, I look over and I'm coming up and I go, what the heck is that? And I go, oh, it's an RTF, rock trailer on its side and a rig.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck happened here? I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. I didn't learn about it until
all
later.
that weight just kept pushing him forward.
The plastic. Go ahead.
I was gonna say each one of those stones weighs, is it 5,000 pounds?
It's a lot.
4,000?
It's a lot.
Tons.
And the irony is when they did all that, so that rock all came from the attic at the county where a lot of the rock comes from. That was part of the tunneling. If you're not familiar, there is a power plant underneath Loon Lake, 1,785 feet or something that bounce underneath the Loon Lake. It drains like a bathtub to power a power plant. And the Army Corps of Engineers blasted all that out, and then the spillway. So there's a lot of granite that line. You see the blocks that line the dam when you're driving in. That's where we got the rock to make those, and we had somebody make those mileage markers. We wanted something to at some pivotal places like Little Sluice and stuff like that, and but we didn't want to. Nobody wants a stupid Carson-ite sign or so and we wanted something that would last. And this was all done before me, but that was the goal of those rocks. But they had placed a bunch of them, but they hadn't done Little Sluice, Old Sluice, and Big Sluice.
Okay.
And Placer County, I was there that day. It was Placer County Crawlers. Chris was the guy who brought from.
Was it Chris? Okay.
Yeah. Chris was the driver of the rig. And the funny part we were putting the first stop was Little Sluice, then the next stop was Old Sluice, and then it was go down, and we had to go down a lot of sketchy stuff there, right? And then get down to Buck Island and go through the Smud bypass area. There's a Smud bypass too, by the way, because the road used to go down to the lake. So there's another bypass and an abandoned part of the route. So
that's
please.
Still RS 2477 covered.
Yeah. So please. So then I had to get to the top of Buck Island to put that rock in there. And it turns out that of all the rocks, the farthest one was the heaviest one, even though it didn't look like it. It was the heaviest one. I was like, that didn't work out.
No.
Like, why didn't we make the lightest one, the hardest one to get to?
Right.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Fun.
So here's a concern that I've heard brought up about the reroute. Future.
Yeah.
Of the reroute. Right now, with Tahoe National Forest kind of claiming and doing all the work on it and everything, Joe's awesome, Teeny's awesome, but what happens, like we were talking about earlier, they retire, they move on, new person comes into their position. What happens to the reroute in those situations? Is that a legit concern? Because it's all of a sudden now Tahoe National Forest owns the dirt. So, I mean, they have control over it.
They own the dirt now and they'll own it then. They'll own it in the future, at least until something changes. I mean, that's honestly what the foundation's for. I mean, Cadillac Hill has work being done on it all the time. That's on the Placer County side. And we've spent, thousands of dollars, maybe even $100,000 over the lifetime between all of the grant matches and feeding people and all the work that's been done over the years. I've been a part of projects on Cadillac Hill, and I've been not a part of projects. Other people, Kevin Arnold and Mike Giardakis with the Jeepers Jamboree crew. They've done some amazing stuff there. It's really is a village. And look, everybody doesn't agree on how to get to the finish, where the finish line is. They don't. And that's okay. Like I said, I welcome questions. And we went out and got the answers. Yeah. And like you said, who's going to do the work afterwards? It's going to be volunteers, Friends of the Rubicon. We had a project, not this last fall, but the fall before. We had 46 volunteers and 9 rigs, and RTF bought rock. I called Mike Gabor, who's a wonderful, wonderful person to work with at the LTBMU, the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, which is basically from Miller Lake to the Tahoma, and then after Miller Lake to the rest of the way is TNF.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know, and that road's E7 E1575 or something like that. It's got a designation.
Mm-hmm.
14N, there's 14N 39, and then there's E75 something.
Okay.
Go look it on a map.
Yeah.
It's there. Tahoe's, it's theirs. So we have to work with them when there's things that need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's why we think it's important that Placer County asserts their rights. But for right now, they work with us. They ask us for help. We've put in snow poles at the entrance,
Yep.
I worked with, Doug Barr, who was that director. He was very vocal about, we thought it was, the county making a snow wall at the entrance of the trail that prevented snow wheeling on the Rubicon Trail. And turns out it was a resident.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was a resident who didn't want those evil four-wheelers to go snow wheeling. But Mike Gabor was like, nope, put up snow poles. I want it delineated. I don't want to encourage people to go around the wall. I want them to use the legit trail. So let's mark it. So we paid for it. And the Tahoe High-Lows, that's what's the beauty of, there's so many groups and clubs that are willing to put a hand in, and the High-Lows, look at the staging area.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know we clean the bathroom there?
No.
At
I didn't know
Tahoma?
that.
Yeah.
Tahoma staging? Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Yep. We, Mike came to me and said, the bathrooms were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They were in awful shape. And, he came to me and I said, hey, well, if we clean the bathrooms, can we just leave them open all year long? Cause they would lock them in the wintertime. Cause trust me, I've been there snow wheeling on my tracks on my quad and went to go open the door and no bueno, no worky.
Yeah.
Right. And water quality, nobody wants Howard Hole filled in.
Yeah.
So, so we worked with Mike Gabor at LTBMU, and the High-Lows stepped up. Sal Sanzeri is one of our board members. We paid for and built a power washer trailer with a water tank and
cool.
everything. And he goes there during the wheeling season, and he can power wash that thing clean because he's had to clean it by hand, and that's not fun for anybody.
No, thank you.
So we said, how would you like a power washer? And he was like, oh man. So he keeps it at his house, and he lives in South Shore.
Mm-hmm.
So he drives up, I think either every week or every other week, and he cleans those bathrooms out. And in exchange, Mike Gabor from LTBMU leaves those bathrooms open so that somebody snow wheeling can use those bathrooms.
Yeah.
So, all you can do is you can have the best relationships possible, work at that.
Yeah.
We've tried to do that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And do what's right. And so I guess the long answer to your question a long time ago was we'll get volunteers and we'll pay for it if we have to fix it.
I think the big thing that I wanted to make sure is known is that it's not changing. Like people are all of a sudden thinking that the ownership of that dirt now is going from Placer County to Tahoe National Forest. And there's a concern about federal owning and being in charge of the land now. And I'm like, well, no, it's not changing. Nothing is changing about the situation except where the route is going to be.
Preventing a future either potential catastrophe with somebody falling off or the road just being closed.
Yeah. Yep.
And now look at how long it would take. It would take a couple years.
Oh yeah.
It started in 2020 or 2019.
Yep.
And here we are in 2025 for you time travelers listening to it in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's been a 5-year process to even get to it. And it's going to take another year and a half until it's actually done. So we're at a 6 or 7 year imagine the Rubicon Trail closed for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So I think it's pretty cool. I think it's rad. I think that we're getting kind of one of the best case scenario that could have happened, really. I think the only thing that could make it better would be for Placer to reassert their RS-2477, but
and it still wouldn't change who's paying for all of this.
Exactly, it still wouldn't change the outcome of what the consumers are getting out of the participants and people wheeling.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I know Jimmy and I have talked at lengths about it, and we're excited to see how it all turns out and get up there and play around on it and have some more options now after the quote unquote the trail's over for the trip. Huge shout out to Rubicon Trail Foundation.
Thank you for having me.
All the work that you've done. Yeah. All the work that RTF is doing out there. And it's important to support the organizations that are supporting the trails out there. So
don't be in the what just happened bucket. Be in the I know what happened or I made it happen bucket.
Yeah.
Just be in one of those buckets.
Yep. Yep. It's cool. So thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
Do you have any advice for people that aren't in our neck of the woods that are possibly having problems similar-ish to what's going on, for maybe something about starting an organization around their club, or just how to help their general area?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not that hard to start a foundation. It just isn't.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to fill out some forms. There's a short form and a long form. And if you don't think you're going to, I think the cutoff is $50,000. If you think you have an area that needs help, either with volunteers, and you want to raise some money, even if it's just a few $1,000s, so that, you can get some shovels or some concrete or whatever it's needed for whatever your situation is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to say, but these days, in 2025 and earlier, up in probably until the 90s or the 2000s, if you want your trail to be open, you have to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Get active.
You just have to get involved. If you want to enjoy your sport and go and not, what's that saying? Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Well, it's not my trail.
It's in California. We're over here East Coast. It can't. We don't have any public lands over here anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But you got the Daniel Boone and you got the Hatfield McCoy and that. So anywhere you can provide assistance, if it's money or time or just knowledge, and do it that way. That's what I would say. And if you need a foundation, it's not that hard to start one. It just takes 3 board members. I think you need a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and a secretary. You don't even need a vice president to start an actual foundation, and start off small. I mean, Rubicon Trail Foundation started off with $5,000.
Yeah.
$5,000. They made it their first taco feed.
And in a way that, sorry to interrupt and interject here, but in a way, the Rubicon Trail Foundation started as the group, right? The Friends of
the Rubicon started it.
Yeah, and then from my understanding, Friends of the Rubicon had no way to accept money.
Yes.
And so they were this group that was out there helping the trail and doing work for the trail. And somebody was, I don't know the gist of the story, but somebody's like, I want to give you guys money. And they're like, we don't accept money.
Right. How are you going to, who are you going to put it in your checking account? Yeah. And then suddenly
you get taxed on it.
Exactly.
And so then they started the foundation. And so maybe the start of this is to start a group for a trail.
Get a group. When you decide you need money, start a small little foundation, man.
Yep.
It doesn't take much. Yeah. And, I know there's a lot of trails out there besides the Rubicon that people care a lot about and want to keep open. So
in and out of California.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that we talked a lot about what's happening on the Rubicon in certain counties here in California, but I think that the moral of this story kind of goes everywhere. It's, if you want to take care of this could be my final words. If you want to take care of a trail.
Promises.
Yeah. If you want to take care of a trail, you've got to step up and do the work to do that.
Yeah, for sure. You do.
Yep.
Just get in one of those buckets, man. Mm-hmm. Don't be in the what the hell just happened bucket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had somebody reached out a few years ago. They're one of their favorite trails. They've been growing up wheeling forever and they love taking their kids out on it. They have a group of friends that loves going out on it too. And they came out one time and there was tires stacked, like somebody dumped a bunch of tires.
That was a listener.
It was a listener of the
wrote us
podcast.
this.
Yeah. And the land manager saw the dump stack of tires, and immediately their next move was to put up a gate
Yeah.
to close off the trail because they thought that it was the trail users dumping their shit there. And so they were like, what do we do? And I was like, go talk to the land manager. You have to create this relationship, get active. And it's so much of just letting them know that you are concerned about this deal. You can be kind of their eyes and ears on the ground in the situations, because a lot of land managers just sit in their offices.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they don't get the luxury of getting to go out and look at the lands they're managing. And so if you can help them do that while you are going out on your adventures and report back to them, just let them know, hey, everything looks good, or hey, there might be a concern coming up here. I don't know how long it is, but just get active and start building those relationships with the trails and land managers.
Okay, Tyler, Jimmy, how many years of wheeling experience you guys got?
Oh, geez.
Combined?
I know math again. It's like reoccurring.
Since I started driving.
Yeah, since you started driving. So more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Just a few.
Yeah, about 20 years. I'd say about,
yeah.
or I guess I was wheeling in the back of my dad's 4Runner as a kid. So.
Okay. And I started wheeling in 1979.
Uh-huh.
I have never seen a sofa or a stack of wheels or a stack of tires or a refrigerator or a washing machine in the back of somebody's wheeler's rig going to go wheeling and dump on a trail. It just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the wheelers are the ones that are going to take care of it.
Exactly.
Take care of the problem, not the one that's causing the problem.
Yep.
So anybody out there listening, no Jeep I've ever seen has had a sofa abandoned in the back of their Jeep so they could dump it off on somewhere on their day. That's beer space, man.
Yeah. Priorities.
That's a cooler, dude.
Yeah. I know to some extent we're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel that there is a learning lesson here. And if, like Tyler was sort of saying, you've got to get to the connections going to start the relationship to be able to help the trail that you're in love with wherever you live. And if you want to keep a trail open, you have to.
Even if it's private or if it's a federal agency, if it's a forest that owns it, if you see a problem starting, go start talking to them off the bat and say, hey, this trail, I see a lot of tweakers or whatever, because I've seen those out there, right? There's tweaker cabin things out there and they're abandoning junk out there and stuff like that. We're going to clean it up, but it ain't us, but we want to help.
Yeah.
Nip the problem in the bud. Don't let the problem become a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
There was a call to action for Rubicon, and Friends of the Rubicon got started in 2001. And in 2004, the foundation was started by the same person that started the first group.
Yeah.
Dell. So it was a trigger that caused it, but it obviously worked out, and it's now going on year 21 for the foundation.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Thanks, Ken, for coming down and doing a 2 episodes with us, getting to enlighten and all sorts of fun information out there.
Marathon.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions for Ken, we went over on Thursday's episode how to get a hold of him or RTF themselves. There's social media, there's emails. There's emails for all the board directors on the website.
Yep. RubiconTrailFoundation.org or RubiconTrail.org. Either one will get you there.
Perfect. Jimmy, people want to get a hold of us. Maybe they want to call in and ask Ken a question on voicemail, and then we can play it for him.
Definitely. You could ring us and we'll play your voicemail on our snail mail episode. That phone number is area code 916-345-4744. Feel free to ask us almost any question you want. You can promote something going on in your area, or you can even tell us that we're completely wrong. Anything that you feel that is necessary, feel free to call in and leave us that voicemail.
You guys got a lot of latitude.
We do. And we play everything. So, you
guys suck.
Thank you. Next. Moving on. You can also email us if you don't want to chat on the phone or have your voice played. That email is Jimmy. Well, mine is Jimmy at Snail Trail 4x4, Tyler at Snail Trail 4x4, or you can DM us on social media on Instagram. Snail Trail 4x4 is the one I look over, and 4x4 Toyota Tyler is what Tyler watches.
Yep. Cool stuff. Final words, wrapping on it up.
So my final words are, if you're in Placer County, get a hold of me. I'm going to figure out a way to try and force Placer County to make their section of the Rubicon, RS-2477.
You go, girl.
I'm going to contact the girl.
Awesome.
We're gonna make this happen.
Nice. I like it. Ken, final words for everybody out there?
Nah, thanks for having me come in here. It's awesome. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for coming
Well,
down.
I hope everybody had fun listening because we had fun doing it. So.
Yes, we did. And as always, everybody, keep crawling.
I wondered why the Frisbee was getting bigger.
And then it hit you?
And then it hit me.
Okay. All right.
Nice. Way to ruin it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's not the first joke ever. And it's okay.
That's awesome.
Not the last either.
That's awesome.